I was a young photographer. I'd had quite an elaborate education, but I was a young photographer, and I was very intent on finding some subject, and this just spoke to me, and it was a great calling for me.
It was the American civil rights struggle that called out to Bob Adelman, and he answered. In the 1960s, Adelman joined a small group of people who believed that America's treatment of black Americans was intolerable and unacceptable.
I joined CORE and worked with SNCC, and CORE was this Congress of Racial Equality who became known for the Freedom Rides, and so initially I offered my help and as a volunteer, and would go to places like Route 40, or which connects Washington and New York, and was segregated at the time. Diplomats, African diplomats, would go up and down and not be up and down Route 40 and not be able to get a cup of coffee or lunch. And cities like Baltimore, Cambridge, Maryland was segregated.
Adelman went on to take thousands of photographs that chronicled the struggle of black Americans in their fight for equality. Overtown activist Denise Perry tells how she was profoundly moved by these images.
It's like your dream, right, to be a part of the continuing building of our people's struggle for justice, for equality, and to see the kind of dedication that people in Overtown have put in for basic survival, and not as victims, but rather as people who are standing up to fight for what they believe in.
Although Bob Adelman may not be known to the world, many of his photographs are. The image that he took of Martin Luther King Jr. as he delivered his I Have a Dream speech on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in 1963 is indelibly etched into American history.
I knew that something important was happening, but just how important wasn't clear. But when King spoke and 250,000 people appeared in Washington, you knew, right in front of Lincoln, you kind of knew for sure that his truth was marching on, that the promises and laws passed after the Civil War were in fact going to be honored. Afterwards, apparently, Kennedy told King, I have a dream too, Dr. King.
These and many other photographs can be seen in Adelman's new book, Mine Eyes Have Seen, bearing witness to the struggle for civil rights. National Book Award-winning author Charles Johnson has contributed new essays to this work. Adelman has been working on this book for 10 years at his home on Miami Beach.
Dr. King was, he was revered in the black community. I remember seeing, he's walking, say down a dirt road toward a church, and country people would just kneel down and say, "The Lord." And he was, and they had good reason to say that. He was an extraordinary human being. And then he had a wonderful sense of humor. He and I, at that time, I would carry 4 or 5 cameras because you needed different lenses. You didn't want to run out of film. And he would joke with me, "Well, did you sell any today?" He thought I was a camera salesman. Oh, just a little joke.
Retired professor, historian, and author of Black Miami in the 20th Century, Dr. Marvin Dunn, spoke about the effect Adelman's work had on him.
Every photograph hit me with tremendous emotional impact, because this is my generation, this is my time. I could have been any one of those children that were photographed back in, I think some of these go back a little bit before the 50s. So it had a very strong emotional impact on me. The images seemed to come alive. Each picture had a message that was just very, very powerful.
Adelman's photographs are currently on exhibit at the Westwood Gallery in New York City. This activist photographer traces his deep commitment to the civil rights struggle to his childhood in New York.
I didn't know any black people, but when I was about 15 or 16, I would sneak into jazz clubs like Birdland and hear Billie Holiday or Charlie Parker. And not only did I never think that blacks were inferior, I thought they were so superior they came from another planet. And so I always loved their artistic expression, which is our artistic expression.
I think this piece, Mine Eyes Have Seen, is an incredible tool for us in the work that we're doing in Overtown. It's a tool in the terms of we can actually look at the type of tactics and strategy that happened to create the civil rights movement. And that allows us to have political dialogue about where are we going, what are the types of tactics that we'd like to use, what worked, why was nonviolence a part of the tactics and the strategy in the civil rights movement, and how would we use that today?
When I decided to do this, I had a little private talk with myself, and I said, well, you know, you're going to risk your life. Is this worth risking your life for? And I said yes.